The Overwatch world is a vast place filled with many wondrous locations, most of which have yet to be explored in the game's current maps. This is why in this video I want to examine what kinds of locations we could see playable as maps in the future. While I discussed the most likely future maps linked to current heroes in one of my previous videos, today I'm going to delve a bit more into the unknown, speculating about new places which might not be tied directly to the game's characters currently, but could still offer a ton of potential for expanding and better understanding the game's universe. This is Master Ian Gamer, and let's get into it. So first up, we have a kind of location that is actually quite important to the game's overall story, specifically when it comes to the Omnics, and that's the Omniums. These massive automated factories were designed to produce the Omnics back in the day, primarily as a way of helping humanity. However, despite all eventually being shut down, they later reactivated and initiated a war on humanity, best known as the Omnic Crisis. Since then, it sounds like the majority of them have become defunct once again, but there are a few that do seem to still be active and are posing an imminent threat on different parts of the world. While the total number of Omniums in existence is unknown, we do know specifically of 5. One in Australia, which has since been destroyed and become the basis of Junkertown, one that's currently still active in the East China Sea, which is the whole reason that Mecha Squad exists, one in Nigeria, one in Siberia, which is currently active and fighting the Russian people, and one in Detroit in the United States. There are likely many more than these 5, but these are the only ones we've ever had named specifically. As for which of these could possibly become a new map at some point, well, the Australian one seems pretty out of the question because A, it's destroyed, and B, it's kind of already a map via Junkertown. Aside from that one though, we could very easily see any of these other Omniums be a playable map. But regardless, I think the real appeal of a location like this is that it would do wonders for expanding what Omnics are and how exactly they're produced. Outside of knowing that they're AI robots, relatively on par with human beings in level of intelligence, we don't really know anything about their actual origins, how they function, how they're made, and we certainly don't know anything about how the Omniums started up the Omnic Crisis, or why. A map situated in an Omnium would be the perfect opportunity to delve a bit more into the story, and give us a bit more information about what I personally consider to be one of the most intriguing aspects of the world as a whole. Maybe the objective of the map is to go into an Omnium to attempt to retrieve some kind of important information, or perhaps even destroy an important structure in there to help deactivate it. There's honestly a ton of potential for a map like this, and I'm really surprised we haven't seen one yet, but I do think it is incredibly likely that we will be seeing one in the future. Moving on to another new map location we could be getting, this one once again somewhat tied into the story, is another Overwatch eco point or watch point. The only eco point we know of is Eco Point Antarctica, and we only know 2 watch points, which are Watchpoint Gibraltar and Watchpoint Grand Mesa. Now, out of all these 3, of course, Watchpoint Grand Mesa is the only one that's not already a map in-game. However, we do know that there are many more watch points scattered across the globe, and we can see a number of them relatively located on the map on Watchpoint Gibraltar. Any one of these could easily become a new watchpoint map, and there very well could be many more that aren't even shown here. Similar to the Omniums having a load of potential for delving more into the backstory of the Omnics, Watchpoints would be a great way to expand more on the lore of the Overwatch organization from back in the day. Maybe we find out more about the different kinds of operations they were carrying out in different parts of the world, or maybe we'll learn new information about various Overwatch team members who previously haven't been hinted at yet. There's simply tons of story potential to be revealed here through a new Watchpoint map like this, and once again, it's something that I think we could very well see happening in a future map sometime soon. Now, moving on to some less Overwatch world specific locations we could be seeing, and getting more into general aesthetics and themes for possible upcoming maps, the first one we have is some kind of tropical beach map. Now, quite surprisingly, we don't actually have any tropical maps in-game currently. The closest thing we'd have to it is Ilios, which is in the Mediterranean, but that's not truly a tropical location. A tropical map would also be an excellent location for making a rainforest, which is yet another kind of aesthetic that we don't have currently in any of the game's maps. Perhaps it would be a control point map of some kind, where one of the locations is on a sandy beach, another is in the rainforest, and heck, maybe the third location would be in an undersea undersea base. I've talked about this kind of thing quite a bit in past videos, but I would love to see an underwater map, or at least one that has parts of the map underwater in some kind of undersea base or research station. A tropical environment seems very fitting for an underwater base like this, and I think most people would agree that not only would it be incredibly unique, but incredibly cool as well. In fact, this could very easily be another eco point of some sort, perhaps monitoring the world's ocean temperatures or doing some sort of marine biology research. There's so much potential here for crossing over a story significant location with a unique map being underwater that, honestly, Blizzard, I really hope you guys get on that. Another sort of general map aesthetic that we don't have currently in-game would be either some kind of cave or mine. Most of Overwatch's maps are fairly open air, but it'd be interesting if we were to get another more enclosed map, kind of like Horizon. Depending on whether the map is a cave or mine, it could easily be linked to the archaeologist group we see on Petra. Perhaps they're excavating something from a deep tunnel, or maybe it's just an industrial mine where they're extracting some kind of natural resources. Again, the story significance of a map like this could really go in any direction Blizzard wanted, but like the underwater map idea, it'd certainly be new and rather unique from the maps we have currently in-game. Maybe it would even be an escort map where you have to push a minecart out of a mine carrying a bunch of gold, something incredibly basic and simple like that. While overly enclosed maps can be problematic in certain regards, and I do think should be kept relatively sparse in terms of the total maps we have in-game, I do still think this is quite an interesting possibility, which I think Blizzard could easily enough come up with some cool ideas for. Moving on to another interesting idea for a new map, we have a space station. Now this one is rather interesting, and you might think, don't we already have Horizon? Isn't that kind of essentially like a space station because it's on the moon? Well, yeah, you could argue that, but there's already evidence to suggest that there may be an actual space station in the Overwatch universe, and it could possibly be a new map. I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever looked up on the Lijiang Tower Control Center map point, but there's a big hologram and it appears to be a space station. You could argue that it is just some kind of satellite, but looking at how intricately detailed it is in a lot of areas, it seems more likely to me that this is in fact some kind of space station, or possibly maybe even an interstellar starship? Maybe that's going a bit too far. We don't know that much about the Overwatch universe's space program, but I don't think that Lijiang Interstellar has that kind of technology quite yet. Like Horizon Lunar Colony, they could just have some sort of, oh, there's gravity even though it's in space aspect going on, so that you don't have to worry about the zero gravity aspects on the map itself. But once again, it could give us quite a bit more information about Lijiang Interstellar and the sort of scientific research it's partaking in. The only issue I really see is that the map itself might not be that interesting, since it would most likely take place inside the space station, which would ultimately boil down to just a lot of rooms with technology. And in that situation, yeah, it'd be pretty similar to Horizon, except probably even less interesting because you don't get the cool moon landscape outside. I'm sure Blizzard could come up with some really cool aesthetic designs for it if they really wanted to go in that direction, and I would love to see something like this in game, but I don't consider it particularly likely, and I'm definitely not holding my breath for it to be a future map, especially not anytime soon. Now, for the final map location idea I have in this video, we're gonna go pretty far out there. Even farther out than outer space, and that's a virtual reality map. That's right, a map set in a virtual environment within presumably some computer within the Overwatch universe. Yeah, it's out there. Do I think it's gonna happen? No. Do I think it could happen? We do have Blizzard World and Wrecking Ball, so I'm not gonna rule it out. They'd probably have to come up with something a little more visually interesting than just these solid colored polygons you might generally think of when you think of a digital world, but the point of suggesting this idea is just to go all the way out there with possible creativity. I have no idea what sort of story significance a virtual reality map could possibly have in this game, and I have no way of explaining how the heroes would ever even reasonably get in there. But it's just one of those absurd ideas that seems like the sort of thing that Blizzard just might somehow manage to pull off. I mean, basically nobody would see it coming, and even though I've considered it at this point, I still have no idea what it would actually look like. Assuming they can somehow manage to pump in the same level of intricate detail into this map as they would with all the other maps they've made, they could end up pushing some pretty insane concepts, and maybe it would end up being too much even for Overwatch. But regardless, it's a very intriguing idea, and I saved it for last because I do not expect it to actually happen, but it is by far a fun concept to consider. In closing, I still think one of the best ideas right now for a new map that isn't tied directly into a current hero's lore is an omnium, because of course that would tell us quite a bit about the Omnics and likely the origins of the Omnic crisis itself. But as always, be sure to let me know your ideas for new map locations down in the comments below. Would you love to see one of these massive Omnic factories, or are you more interested in one of the natural aesthetics such as a cavern or a rainforest or undersea base? Either way, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this video and share it with a friend if you really liked it. Subscribe, follow me on Twitter, and hit up the bell to keep up with all my future Overwatch content. This is Master Ian Gamer signing off, and until next time,